Hello, everybody. Welcome along to this evening's XO chat without the XO. He's not here. So I'm John, as you can see down here in the corner, and I will be conducting the interview this evening with the author Una McCormack, which we're very excited about because Una gave us a great pleasure recently, and we'll discuss what gifts she gave to the Cuchulainn and her crew in one of her recent books, which is great. Joining me this evening for the female perspective is Anne Grace. So Anne, hey Anne.
Hi.
Anne's along tonight to help me ask the questions and keep it from being a completely one-sided discussion. And joining us tonight is the star of this evening, who is Una McCormack. Thank you, Una, so much for joining us live this evening.
Absolute pleasure.
We're going out live on our USS Cuchulainn's Facebook page, and we're also going out live on the YouTubes. So hello to those who are watching live. You can join us in the comments on both YouTube and Facebook. So if you have any comments or questions you'd like to ask Una as you're watching, please do. If you're watching after the fact, welcome along too, and I hope you enjoy what we come up with for the next hour or so. So so great. So Anne, do you want to start the ball rolling while I make sure that we're all rolling and stuff on the other screen?
Oh, if I may. Thank you. It's wonderful to meet you, Una, and heard lots about you, especially for Jono, who has made us all huge fans. I'm going to start off with a simple question. You're listed as being a British-Irish academic. Where does the Irish come in?
I think the Irish, like many people in the benighted country which I live, is grandparents. So sufficient to claim nationality. And my dear old dad, when for all of his 6 children, registered us as foreign birth. So technically, I do have citizenship in my own right. And the nice thing about that is that because he registered me when I was little, my daughter gets Irish citizenship through me. Because, of course, she doesn't have any Irish-born grandparents. But so that's the Irishness. So our grandparents born in Ireland, then like many people came over in the 20s to kind of Liverpool and sort of up in the northeast. Liverpool, indeed. Well, I can do that if you try. Yeah. I can absolutely do that. That's no problem at all, mate. It's bread and butter to me. Like so yeah, that's the Irish. Yeah.
Do you come back to Ireland often?
I don't. I think the last time I was there, so the last time I went with family was with my dad, was back in the, I think it was like 1980 or something. But I think we don't actually have any family left in Ireland. I think we've all left. So I've been back to visit Dublin and Belfast and various other places. But no, sadly, we've all. I think if they are family, it's now 5 or 6 generations ago. But I visited the little farmstead and these sorts of things. It's sad to think we've all gone. Yeah, but all from the west as well. All kind of
over here.
You're not short of them. I think.
You're related to somebody. Don't worry about it.
I should think so. Yeah.
There's only 6 degrees of separation, and in Ireland it's about 3.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm sure if you walk down the street somewhere, you'll find in McCormack. Oh, yes, I remember your grandfather. Yeah.
Or something like that. The other side is Towie, so I'm sure that somebody the Balladrine Towies. Yeah, I know.
Una, you're more Irish than I am. I mean, I was born and raised here, but my name is East, and my grandmother, she's descended from French Picards. And my grandfather is coming from the Scottish Vegans, and then of course east come my great grandfather John James was born in London in 1871 and moved to Belfast. So you're more Irish than me in your heritage.
Well, I think it tells you something about just how European we all are, and just how much there's been migration around this continent, and we've all got roots in common. I think rather than these kind of divisions. So that's my feeling. Definitely. And I think of them as that lovely phrase, these islands, which I just think is just a beautiful way of, not the British Islands or anything like that, but these islands, I just think speaks to a common history and a common identity that I find very, very moving. So
we all.
Yeah. Oh,
we've lost him, Jono.
We've lost him. He was so moved by what I said. He's just had to go and dab his eyes for a wee while.
God bless him. Anyway, I hope you're okay to continue with just me.
Of course I am. That's no problem at all. We've made it an all women's evening. Oh, here he comes.
I was kicked out of my own. I was kicked out of my own stream.
Wasn't me. My hands never touched anything. I promise you.
I thought you were so touched by my words, you'd had to go and have a little wipe of your eyes.
Since I've had a little technical hiccup there, but before we go any further, I'd just like to say hello to the people who are chiming in here at the moment. We've got some Facebook users, but they are Patrick Conran. We've got our own captain of the ship, Alan O'Shea, who's been in touch with you.
Hi, Alan.
Una, and Michael Nolan, Anita Malone. Antoinette is also joining us, and Alan has also listed everybody he knows in Facebook. So he's doing as usual to promote the video, which is great.
I hope Alan can see I'm wearing my badge. I've been given. You sent me some absolutely beautiful gifts, and I tell you, I've been wearing your. I've been wearing this sort of the Starfleet insignia with the harp on. People have been stopping to. Yeah, they've been stopping me to ask me about it. It's
our
really
comm badges, our comm badges are so popular. We give them away. They're the most popular thing we do. That was
beautiful. I think you sent me two. My little girl just went yoink. So she took one straight away. Yeah, I haven't given the other.
That's great. I mean, wear that wherever you like. We're always delighted to see that people are wearing those. I think we've given them to so many. Star Trek personalities, but we've also given them to Worldcon. Here was in Dublin.
Oh yes, of course it was.
Yeah. So we had Antoinette, or was it not Antoinette? We had Jeanette Epps, who's hopeful for the Jeff Bezos Boeing Starliner space program. And we gave one to her, and she wore it on her NASA jumpsuit for the rest of the convention.
Oh, wow, that's fantastic. Let's hope she takes it up into space with her. That would be amazing.
Yes, exactly. COVID has put her on the back burner. I just hope she hasn't been stricken from the
that would be really tough. List, if I ever go into space, I promise you guys it will go with me. So that's not very likely.
we're getting there. I think I can't remember off the top of my head, but I did calculate how much it would cost to send if someone took one of our comm badges up, and it was something like $15,000 because of the weight of it.
My goodness!
You know, it's it's $10,000 for so many pounds or a pound or something like that.
So you'll have to come up with an extra lightweight one.
Yes, exactly. We'll get some 3D printed ones, and we'll make them out of aerofoam stuff that weighs nothing.
Bit gold paint. Nobody would know any difference.
Exactly. You know, so. So hey, Jerry and Andrew, welcome along. These people are all some of our regulars, and let's kind of move along to why Una came across our path so stirringly. This book here, if you can all see, this is Una's. This is the best book Una's ever written, according to the US Cullen crew. I mean,
he's not biased at all.
We're not biased at all. This book here, you know, and you didn't write it though. You only edited it, but
I only edited it. Yeah. Catherine. Catherine, as I call her.
First name terms.
You've got a good relationship with Kathy, don't you? Yeah,
I do indeed. Yeah. You know, very close.
Now, I mean, it was just something in the back of your head as we spoke in the past. But here, there's on page 74, right down here on page 74. This is not really, it's just there we are. You gave us this mention, this simple little mention, which was absolutely amazing. It was so fantastic for us to get that mention. It was brilliant. I'm sure every member of the Cuchulainn at least has a copy of this book, because you have now entered us into Star Trek.
Or they've got that page anyway.
We're all going to frame just that page and put it next to put it next to our models.
Well, I'm absolutely delighted because I'd bet you guys at can't remember which convention it was now. And
Destination a couple of years ago.
Lodged in my head, and when you're writing, you're just trying to think of names, and pop, out it came, and absolutely perfect. So I'm just really pleased about it. And as we know, books are practically canon. So
We're saying canon.
We're saying canon. Yeah,
we're
canon adjacent. Yeah.
I don't know if you knew, but like I just have a little model. So this is our ship. This is our beloved little ship. So it's a Nova class starship. So we all have models of this. So look at that. That's what we have. So that's the little ship that you mentioned, and it's an amazing.
Oh, that's
thing.
amazing.
So there's all sorts of technical stuff about this, like so it's supposed to. You remember the episode of Voyager with the Equinox? And she's a tiny little ship. So we have this thing where we're the largest crew in the international fan club Starfleet. So we've got 250 odd members.
Wow.
And but we all fit on that tiny little 80-person ship.
Yeah. It's a tad snug.
Do you know what I think happens? I think some of you must be kept in the transporter buffers, and they kind of they let you out every so often. But the good news about that is that means almost eternal youth. So they just they just bring you out at
exactly
40 or 25 or whatever.
What I've done because of your mention of us in the book. And I told you before, we created a Star Trek Adventures game. So there's a couple of us playing Star Trek Adventures from Modifius Games, right? And from the jumping off point of your mention with sending over Lieutenant Flora Christopher, who Janeway replaced as Chief Science Officer on the Al-Batani as part of your story. So I took that story element and that little mention of a paragraph that you put us in, and I've made a Star Trek role-playing adventure for members of the crew. And we've gotten through 6 episodes, 6 2 or 3 hour episodes so far. What we've done is we've got 2 shifts. So we've got an alpha shift and a beta shift. So the alpha shift and the beta shift are on the bridge, and Anne is part of the beta shift.
Represents,
I love it. Absolutely.
It's a balance of proper Trek plus the comedy of Lower Decks because of
so much Lower Decks.
Absolutely with a little bit of the original animated series, which is one of my favorites at the moment. I'm loving that. So
what we've done is because of your mention, and we're a tiny ship. So I've invented this MacGuffin, this device based on the next phase, the interphasic generator.
Yes.
So the interphasic generator creates small pocket universes on board the ship. So we have multiple science labs, and we have multiple crew quarters. So that's how we can accommodate so many people. But it's all because of the mention you gave us, which is great.
Yeah. Oh well, absolute pleasure. And you sent me all these beautiful badges and mugs and things. I feel very spoiled. So I'm really pleased. Whatever happened in my head, and I went boom. I'm just delighted. So
it was fantastic. Yeah, it was myself and Jim having a chat, and you were there next to us. There's just a few more people chiming in here. We've got some of our people. So Alan Whelan down in Clane, watching on YouTube. He got his copy straight away. Jerry's listening in from Cork. PJ is one of our regulars watching on YouTube as well, and the captain. So somebody's just saying hello. They're in the middle of a class at the moment on a Sunday evening. Oh dear. And representing from the flight crew, the flight officer of Beta Shift. Representing this evening. So
it's going mad with Beta Shift down here.
Yeah, Beta Shift.
That's clearly where the party's happening. You guys have clearly got it.
Yeah. No idea.
It's all tedious crew rosters and temporal anomalies in Alpha Shift. Who wants that? Yeah,
no, we don't do that.
Yeah, it's all them.
Beta Shift, the only shift that has never blown up the ship. So well done, Beta Shift.
Well, yeah,
everybody else's, but we haven't blown up ours.
That's the main thing. Yeah, it's all Darbo and
It's
all the sweet adventures.
What happens on lower decks stays on lower decks.
So, Una, just tell us a bit. How do you how did you get started? So, I mean, you've brought us all the way up to here. You've got a lot more. You've a hell of a lot more books than just this, obviously. And we asked Jim a few weeks ago when he was on with us how he got in, and you know, he was just a fan who wrote periodicals and then managed to get out to LA and pitch the story points for some episodes. How did you end up doing what you do?
Yeah, well, Jim is, I think, the only, isn't he the only Brit with a Star Trek credit? I don't know if that's still the case since the show has come back, but certainly up until Discovery landed, he was the only British person with a credit on Star Trek. So I believe somebody, no doubt, it'll be going on Memory Alpha right now and finding out somebody from Beta Shift, I hope. But I was writing fan fiction. So I really got into DS9 in the late 90s, just as DS9 was ending its run. Because I don't know if anyone else here remembers the 90s, but you had a choice.
I do.
No, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. So.
I'm a TNG girl myself.
TNG.
Riker forever.
And either at the time you were either DS9 or Babylon 5. You know, it's a real picture size. And I picked Babylon 5, so I didn't get into DS9 very late, until quite late.
I love them both, I have to admit.
Oh, now that I mean,
different reasons, but I like them both.
Garrick, Jakar, Garrick.
Oh
Jakar.
yeah. What an interesting analysis. I've never heard that one before.
I know.
Very good. It is.
Destroyed worlds, reptile men. So it's a little bit more Londo in Garrick, I think. But yeah, so I started writing fan fiction. I was just sort of it's quite early on in the days of the web. Remember, we're talking about 99 or 2000. So really, you know, the web had only been around less than a decade. So I was shoving them up on Usenet groups, and out of the blue, I got an email from a guy called Marco Palmieri, saying, "Oh, hi, I'm the editor of the Star Trek books, Pocket Books as it was now. Your writing's been recommended. Would you like to pitch a book?" Yeah, I'll think about it. Yes, obviously, I would love to do that. So that's what happened. I pitched a book. It ended up being a short story and a couple of novels, and then once you're in, you're in. If you sort of demonstrate you can deliver on time. You know, you're kind of there. So I tell this story a lot. I tell it at conventions, and Jim is usually sitting next to me, and Jim will say, at this point, he'll kind of lean forward and he'll say, "Now, the most important thing that everyone has to understand is that this never happens." Okay, so people, you don't get approached to write Star Trek books, but it happened. I had the lucky break, so everything just the stars all aligned. I was writing. They were looking for people. I think there was a 10th anniversary or something coming up, and he was looking for new folks. And I just happened to be, you know, the person he asked, and there we go. From that, a career was made. So write fan fiction, kids. It's good for you.
Yeah. Write good prose and fan fiction.
It
has to be good to begin with. Yeah, it has to be good to begin with. Following on from that, did you find it more difficult the further you went in when you came up against canon in any way, or did you find it easier to write full-length books? You know, because you've written a few from DS9 and everything like that, you know, and Picard, but the further you go in, is it more difficult or is it easier?
It's a little bit of both, I think, because I think if you remember, most of my novels are kind of being published when the show is off air. So I think I'm sort of coming on board about 2000. Yeah, I came on with the 10th anniversary of DS9, so that's 2003. So we're kind of looking at the last couple of years of it being on air, and then it's off. And what happens with the novels is that's really where the story's happening. So we had a lot of freedom to sort of do a lot of what we wanted. Now I found it terribly hard to keep up with everything that was going on in the books. so I would have memory beta open quite a lot. But also I found that the crafty way to get around this was to write books set on Cardassia. So I could kind of build my own canon there.
Yeah.
Excellent. Very good.
With occasional intersections with what was happening on elsewhere. So I found a little niche of stuff that I could do where I didn't always have to be completely up to speed because there were so many books. I mean, we're looking at 1 or 2 a month at one point, and you were sort of reading them and keeping up, and then can't hold everything in my head. But with Cardassia, I knew exactly where I was, so that's sort of what I
That's
stuck
very
to.
interesting. Now, I haven't read any of yours. I know another friend of mine in Indiana, Daniel McDivitt, and he wrote an episode of DS9, and it got as far as Jerry Taylor's desk, and it was accepted until they decided that the Cardassian, they didn't want to. Sorry, I'm just getting a message from the captain there at the same time. Yeah, he'd written an episode in such a way that he explored the Cardassian religion. And they decided that they didn't want to look down that road because it would not to use the word wrongly, but would humanize them a bit too much. They wanted to keep them as villains. So did you deal with anything like that? How did you deal with writing for the Cardassians? How did you expand on that culture?
Oh, well, I think part of what so Marco commissioned a book from me called The Never-Ending Sacrifice. And the idea of that was to, I don't know if people remember the episode, it's a second season episode of DS9 called Cardassians. And it's about a little Cardassian boy who's been brought up on Bajor and identifies culturally as Bajoran. And then his father is found, his Cardassian father. And Cisco has to rule about whether to send him back to Cardassia or let him go back with his adopted parents to Bajor. And Marco said, I think we should do a book about this guy because in fact they do send him back to Cardassia, which I think is completely the wrong decision. It's really cruel. So Marco said, I think we should do a story about this boy because he's living on Cardassia through the whole of the Dominion War and afterwards. And this was part of the point of this book was to it's not really humanize them, is it? It's to make them less villainous. So we see all different aspects of Cardassian society. And I think the show was off air and we could do this. We could just go where we wanted. One reason I suspect that exploring, so why you might not have gone there in the show, as well as keeping the villains pretty straightforward, although the actors are really, people like the guy playing Damar and obviously Andy Robinson are really showing nuances to the Cardassians. Casey Biggs, that's his name.
Biggs, yeah,
that's it. They're doing a lot of kind of showing you the nuance of this. I suspect that they wanted to keep away from religion because I'm not sure how well the Bajoran religious stuff played. So they kind of already had that covered. Yeah, if we're doing religion, it's going to be about the Kai and Bajoran religion, and we don't want to mix it up too much. So that might be another reason why they hit resistance with that script. But I think they wanted to keep it quite straight. But they complicated Cardassians from early on. Think about an episode like Duet. And then when it came to the books, we were sort of encouraged, certainly with that book, encouraged to give us as broad a range, really digging deep into this culture. And that's what we tried to keep on doing. Because it was off air, so that we could build and build and build and do what we like. So once the show's back on air, it's a little bit different again. Yeah.
So what's the name? What's the title of that book? So people can go and look
that's
for it.
called The Never-Ending Sacrifice, which proper DS9 aficionados will know is a book that Garrick lends to Bashir, calling it the finest Cardassian novel ever written. And Bashir goes, it's absolutely the most tedious book I've ever read. And Garrick goes, well, it's a great phrase. It's a repetitive epic. And the same thing happens again and again and again to generations of Cardassians. So we took that title and told a story about Cardassia during the Dominion War, what it was like, because there are little throwaway lines about famine and disease, and of course then there's that the millions of them die at the end of DS9. I hope that's not a spoiler for anyone. Cardassia's in ruins at the end of DS9. Sorry, guys, bit of a spoiler. So what would it have been like to be on the ground living through basically the last, the rise and fall of Nazism? Yeah, and that's basically what the book is about.
Yeah, that's what it's about. That's where it kind of comes back to. It seems to come in waves. That's one of the. It's gorgeous. Following on from that, which character that you've finished writing about in a book? Maybe you've answered this just there ahead. You finished writing their part in the current book you're in, but you feel like their story isn't complete, and you'd like to go back, revisit, and maybe write them another story. Have you any characters like that?
Oh well, so I've written 2 books that are set in post-war Cardassia called The Crimson Shadow. You can see one there, and another one called Enigma Tales, and they're all about Cardassia trying to rebuild after the war. And in my mind, I always felt there was a 3rd book there, and that was the story of Garrick after the war, facing the ruin of his civilization, trying to come to terms with it, and deciding what to do next. Because he believes, he's pretty racist, Garrick. He thinks he's from the best civilization, that Cardassians do it better, and then he's confronted with, it's almost complete annihilation. So I really wanted to carry on with that story. I don't think it's going to happen now, sadly. They're wrapping up the book range and they've got a trilogy happening. But in my head, it's all there. And then there were a handful of minor characters that I created that I really wanted to carry on. There's a character called Peter Alden that I really wanted to go back to. And I would have loved to have done more with Bashir and Miles and Keiko. I adore Keiko O'Brien. I think she's fantastic, and I have a very soft spot for Pulaski. I would have liked one more go around the houses with Pulaski. I think she makes me laugh. So, but Garrick in particular, and then a few of my own kind of OCs, original characters who've been in a couple of books. But definitely Garrick. Yeah, I don't think he'll ever stop talking to me.
No, I think he does.
I mean, he's sitting right here, so it's never very far away.
Do you ever feel that? I remember there was a documentary with Terry Pratchett, and Terry had some mad way of doing his writing. He had like 6 screens. It was like very Matrix the way his setup was.
Yeah.
But he said that he had a Greek chorus and stuff behind him, and it was that 2-part documentary where he spoke about his Alzheimer's and stuff. But
yeah,
but how did you? His question. He was often asked, how did you write so many books in the Discworld? And what he would say was, he didn't write them. The Discworld was in his head, and he would see these characters go about their business, and he wrote about them. He didn't create. So whatever world he'd created in his head, he just had Ankh-Morpork in his head, and he'd be able to walk the streets in his imagination, see Grimes or Rincewind or whoever, and just go and follow that character, see where they went. Which was what an amazing ability. Have, and then to be able to just like go have those daydreams, see that adventure, but then also put it down into a cohesive story. How do you have something similar? Do you, when you were writing Deep Space Nine, would you, if your Garrick was on a ship or runabout, would you be sitting there in the 3rd seat, or would you be in ops in your head? How would you do that?
Yeah, so that's actually really interesting. So I taught creative writing for a long time. I taught it for about a decade, and I would teach it was at university. So I was teaching undergraduates. I was also teaching postgraduates, PhD students. But one of the first things I would always say to my students, I think this is good for anyone who's writing and maybe struggling a bit, is think about how your imagination functions. And many people talk, like Pratchett clearly did, about seeing things, visualizing a movie happening in front of them. Now, I have practically no visual imagination at all. If you said the word apple to me and I closed my eyes, I'd kind of go, I don't know. I have no idea. It's kind of a shape, it's sort of a blob or something. But I have very, very strong imagination for sound, for voice, people's voices. So this is one reason why I was pulled to TV time fiction. If you go and have a look at any of one of the pages of my book, you will see there's practically no description, because I can rely on you. You know exactly what the promenade looks like. Yeah, these sorts of things. I don't need to do that. But I hear voice, and when I'm with a character, when I'm getting very close to a character, I start to hear their voice very, very clearly and inhabit that voice. And what happens with Garrick often, and this has been happening for 20 years now, and I don't imagine this ever stopping, is that I'll just be going about my business and I just suddenly feel this little tap on my shoulder, and this voice kind of leans over and he goes, "So, Dr. McCormack, where were we when I was last narrating to you the story of my life?" And oh Christ, he's here again. It's like the terror commence sort of thing. And that's a voice that I've particularly heard extremely strongly. There are other voices that I've written that I've sort of heard or experienced that intensely. And so when I'm trying to write other characters, I try and listen to that voice as well. So the Janeway book is all in first person. And I imagined it. Part of the conceit of the book is that I'm the editor, that I was sitting there, that, I'd gone to her office at Starfleet Command. Yeah, had a cup of tea, we'd kicked our shoes off, and I'd go, "Come on, Kate, tell me what really happened, in that between you and Chakotay." And well, we're off the record here, Una, these kind of things. But I hear these voices. So I think some people get visions and others hear voices. And I'm definitely a voice hearer. And I think some people are very lucky. They can do a little bit of both. Yeah, it's voices for me.
I'm slightly envious in that I'm having trouble with something that I'm writing at the moment. I've actually written it. I'm one of those people who can write 10 o'clock the night before and then shoot it the next day.
Oh, you are lucky. Yeah.
I'm lucky in respect because the deadline makes you do it.
Yeah, it really does.
I shot a short film there a couple of years ago as a promo for a feature to try and get funding for it. It's cut together. The feature never happened, but I still have this pretty decent 10 minutes of film. But there's no story. There's no discovery for the main character. There's nothing.
No arc.
There's no arc. Well, yeah. There's no bookends to it. Like, here's a quick thing. And it was plot filler for plot holes that were in the movie, but you're going to learn the rest of the story in the movie. So, but the movie's never going to happen now. So I have this thing that I would like to put out. So you're hearing voices, and I see visuals. So I know what the bookends are going to be visually. I know what I want to show. However, the dialogue between the characters and the story that I want to bring forward, I'm having a really tough time with. So it's a very interesting between the way you and the way I would see something.
And dialogue, dialogue's no problem for me. I think I cut my teeth on 70s British television, which is very, very studio bound. Yeah, so it'd be you'd have like two heads talking to each other. So it's like small. It was like theatre in your sitting in in your lounge. So I because we didn't go to the theatre because we weren't posh. I was like, we had the telly on, but the telly was great. It was things like Tenko or Colditz or Upstairs Downstairs. So they're like mini plays every single night. And you would learn. So I learned to write dialogue from that. So dialogue I have no problem with, but visuals I wouldn't even begin. I wouldn't even know. So it took me a long time to be able to. I love them now. I love reading graphic novels, but I really had to learn to read them. So I'm quite jealous of people who have this visual skill. And then sometimes people say to me, I just don't believe that you weren't picturing this because. I was reading a scene in one of your books and I had a really strong visual image. And I thought, no, you didn't have a visual image. What you had was what I gave you was a strong emotion. And you plugged that into a picture that you had in your head. So it's just a trick. You thought you saw something, but I just made you feel, I talked about a sunset and a feeling. and you plugged an instance of that into your mind, because I wasn't picturing it. Yeah.
With that, though,
sorry, I got caught up with the internet there. We have a question here from Andrew Brannigan. If the internet will play ball with me here. Una, do you focus on stories you are currently working on to the exclusion of all else, or do you jot down ideas for other projects as they pop into your head?
So I will say it's pretty much the first, the exclusion of all else. Although often what you find, this is my full-time job now. So often what's happening is that people are saying, could you just send me this outline? Could you just? So you have to spend a morning, like, coming together with a handful of a paragraph of ideas or something. But once I'm very, very deep into a novel, that's it. You can't. And my guys here, my other half, and my little girl, are super patient. Sort of in the last couple of weeks of a book, I'm wandering around with this glassy-eyed look, and they don't see me at the weekends. I just go, right, I've got to go in. I've got to burn through this now. I find that I kind of gather steam, gather pace. So I'm sort of chipping away and, not being very productive. And then I get maybe 30,000 words down, and it starts to pick up. Then you kind of push on to 60K, and it starts to really come together. And then I burn through to the end, and I get very, very, very involved, and it kind of consumes my, kind of going around, in a different world, pretty much. So they're very patient with me.
You have all these voices in your head for that time, all these conversations going on, and you're trying to make sense of them.
And the shape of a whole book. It's so I often joke that a novel is a project that is exactly too big to fit in your head at one time. It's just
amazing.
Yeah, that's how you got to get it down on the page, and you're constantly moving between the kind of linear story and the kind of thematic stuff that you're trying to weave all the way through. It's really interesting hearing about Pratchett's process, and he must have been able to do about 2 or 3 books a year, I think. Because if you look at his plots, they're pretty similar. Yeah. So he had in terms of the plot and the storytelling, he was in a pretty solid groove, which is quite right. This is genre fiction. He's doing adventure fiction, and he might mix it up. He might have like a crime novel or a mystery, or just a straightforward adventure or a puzzle or something.
Every 4 books, it was like he changed again, because he had his series within the series. So the Weird Sisters, Rincewind would have it. Then you have the Guards with Guards, and all the way to Thud. And he had series within his overarching series. And I've only read like a percentage of it. I'm sure everybody's read all 36 books or something.
Oh yes, I think so. Yeah. But underneath that, so he would kind of alternate the setting and the cast. But then you would be using some really solid kind of plots. He would have like puzzle or mystery or adventure or puzzle or a conspiracy or something, and he would mix these up really, really well. So you never felt you were getting the same book, because it's all just mixed so well.
He'd also take a piece of modern technology, and then how would that be created in a medieval which is like, you had the clacks, how did they communicate, and all that. So he definitely,
I think the one about the printing press is the last one I read. Was it called The Truth? They're absolutely consummate. They're really they're not always to my taste, but I find them a little I find them a bit the good end happily and the bad end unhappily. They're quite pious in many ways, but they're extremely well crafted. Obviously the man was extremely gifted, and I tore through them. I tore through about 20 of them at one point. So more, because they're so funny. Yeah.
I have two questions based on just that. My first question that jumps into my head is, you're talking about writing like 30,000, 60,000 words in like a couple of weekends. I mean, I remember
not a couple of weekends.
I'm being generous, but I remember struggling for 9 months to write a 5,000 word thesis, and I failed that. So I mean, it's just saying that number of words, 60,000 words, is just
I have no concept.
It's mind blowing to me. but what is the average word count of a 300-page novel? What's the average count?
So I'm usually contracted for either 80,000 or 100,000 words. So the Janeway book is a little short of 80, I think, and the Picard book would be about 100,000. So that's usually what I'm contracted to write. So I've written 2 books this year so far, and
Wow.
I've written 4. One of those was quite short; it's about 30,000. I've written 4 since lockdown began.
Wow! So were you able to concentrate?
But remember, this is my job. Yeah. So it's not like I'm doing this when you would be doing your jobs. Okay, so if you're getting your job done, I'm getting my job done. So
yeah, but
it's just I have a very narrow skill set.
I just want to say, do you find it difficult to switch off when you're in the flow? Like, it's not a 9-to-5 job. It's all consuming.
24/7, as your mind is ticking over, trying to come up with the plot.
Well, you have to. A 7.5-year-old doesn't let you not switch off. So I've got quite discipline. Particularly during lockdown when we were homeschooling. We were sort of. I was working in the morning. He was working in the afternoons. So 12:30, I just had to switch off and do whatever we were doing, which was usually throwing paint around at each other. So which wasn't too bad, but it is just my job. And really, I can't overstate the extent to which I'm hopeless at anything else. I can't drive, I can't cook, I dress like a down and out. I'm hopeless. I'm a hopeless excuse for me.
Well, I'm just going to counter.
I'm very good at writing space opera.
You say that, but for someone who also works in film industry, and I have aspirations of being a director and stuff like that myself someday. And I do know what it's like to attempt to write things, and I have written stuff, but I find it. While I can do it, and like a severe deadline is the best thing for me, but I admire what you can do, being able to churn out novel after novel, which is, and I know it's your day job, and you have to sit there and you're making yourself do it, but to do it without thinking visually. For a visual puzzle solving brain, that's another thing that's amazing to me. So that's fantastic. Just as the time is going on, just want to say hello to Stephen Parmley, who's joining us all the way from the United States.
Yes, he is our
hi.
He's the fleet captain, or the Admiral Commodore top man in Starfleet International. So hello, Stephen. Thanks for joining us live here.
Yes. He's the head honcho.
He's the head.
Wow.
He's the guy who
I feel like I should be saluting in some way.
Me too. I avoid that urge. But as soon as I do it, I pick up a glass. It works.
So, hey, to Stephen, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate that. We're getting a few requests for you to write, to go back into fan fiction and write for our crew. Won't be happening, Jerry. I don't think we can afford MSP. Alan Whelan pipes in and says Crown Court from the 70s.
Yes,
I love that.
Amazing show, really, really good. I've got to go back to that. It's out on DVD. I think Network have put some out. I really must take a look. My other half's gone back to the Bill recently, and I think I learned a lot about plotting and dialogue from the Bill, scene construction. And the other show that I watched that I learned a lot about writing from. So after I'd finished my PhD, after I'd submitted it, I was so exhausted, and I'd written a novel at the same time. I'd written Hollow Men. I sat, and for 3 months I did nothing but watch Law and Order, which taught me more about writing.
Yes,
yeah. But the scene construction of that, absolutely flawless. Yeah. So
it's that's an interesting show to bring up, because Law and Order was actually 2 shows in one. It was a 50-50. The first half of the episode was the cops on the street. And then at the midway, they'd catch the guy.
I think it's 3 acts, you see, because I think it goes police, transition, and then the last act is always the courtroom drama. Yeah. I have lots of opinions on Law and Order. It's quite a specialist study at one point. So.
I mean, how many Law and Orders was there? Was Law and Order SVU?
Oh, it's Law and Order SVU. There was Criminal Intent. There was
Case. There was so many of them.
They did a very short-lived courtroom, one that was just courtroom, didn't they? But I don't think that had more than a season. Then, of course, they did. Didn't they do a London-based one? They did Law and Order London, which
that
didn't last very long. No, it wasn't very good. It had a great cast. It had Bradley, what's his name? But the scripts weren't tight enough. Yeah, didn't. British television's a different shape. It isn't the same shape as American television. It's the acts are different, and the length isn't quite the same. So you can't. It's not as easy as translating it. I think I have lots of opinions on Law and Order. They found my specialist subject.
Yeah, before we get buried down Law and Order, as Andrew Brannigan saying, Brad Walsh.
Bradley Walsh, that's it. Can anyone remember the courtroom one? I think it had 2 seasons. I can't remember the name of it now, but someone will, I'm sure.
Yeah,
so
somebody
get
on
on Google.
Any other fans of Law and Order out there? Can you answer
They
that
will.
question?
They will.
I remember the original, and that was it. I didn't watch any more.
Late at night was very, very traumatic, and it was really thought-provoking as well, which is what I loved. I have a question for you. Based on what you said so far, do you prefer writing for dystopian futures or utopian futures?
Interesting question.
Oh yeah, good question. I think I'm one of these people who instinct makes me utopian, experience makes me dystopian, but I just can't stop hoping, I think. So something like the Picard book was a really interesting experience because Picard is quite a downbeat show. And it's quite a downbeat book. So to try and make it continue feeling, sorry, I'm just going to grab a drink of water. Try and make it continue feeling utopian was a real. I don't like dystopia. I think Marco, the guy who commissioned me, had a really great line that he would use every so often. He would say, "Dystopia is a failure of the imagination," and that really stuck. I think it's quite easy to imagine horrible things. I mean, it's not particularly pleasant. It can be cathartic, but it's not as easy to imagine your way out of them. And that's the real challenge, I think. It's easy to you can build a dystopia like that.
Yeah, it's an interesting discussion because Frank, who's the XO of our little ship here, I've known Frank for over 25 years. We have a constant discussion where he really loves going for dystopian stuff. He his major show is Babylon 5, Space 1999. But if there's a dark show on TV currently, like he prefers Discovery, where and I prefer the altruism of older Trek and stuff like that. Battlestar Galactica, which was another kind of dystopian idealism. All those type of things. Frank really, really digs that, whatever goes on in Frank's mind. Whereas I'm like, where are the superheroes? Where's I want to follow the good guy. I want to see the good guy win. I want to root for someone, which is very much the same thing. Before we go too much further, because I'm conscious of the time, I want to ask you, Una, like we asked Jim, about your own stuff that you've written, and I have you can see it up in the background there. You've got let me just pull it up here. There's 3 books that I spotted. Now, unfortunately, I haven't read them. You can scold me later.
He likes that.
There's the Undefeated. There's the Undefeated, the Star of the Sea, and the wonderfully titled Baba Yaga. Can you tell us a little bit about these books, these stories that you've created?
I will, yes, and thank you to Andrew, who's just put Law and Order Trial by Jury there. So thank you for looking that up. So The Undefeated is a book I'm very proud of. It's a novella from Tor, so it's quite short, and it's about a woman in her 60s who has to, very late in life, confront the sort of lies upon which her comfortable life has been led, both her own personal life and the society in which she lives. So I won't say it's quite literary. It's sort of they marketed it as a kind of explosive thriller, but it's actually quite thinky and narrative-y, which I hope doesn't put people off. There are spaceships, but it's a tricky book to describe. Yeah. But I'm very, very fond of it. I think it's got some of my best writing in it. So if people want to know about the kind of things that I lie awake thinking about, and again, I think it touches on themes of, when utopia becomes dystopic, or what if somebody's utopia might depend on somebody else's hell, I guess, is one of the themes that they're exploring. So that's The Undefeated. And then the other two books were actually written in a shared world. So my friend and colleague Eric Brown came up with this great concept called Weird Space, which is a little bit sort of Western in space, and a little bit sort of Lovecraft cosmic horror. And part of the idea of a shared world series is that you hand over the baton. So the first one that I did was Baba Yaga, actually, which is the name of a ship. And Star of the Sea is the follow-up to that, and it's about these sort of Lovecraft cosmic monsters are tearing through into our space, and it's about a coalition of people who sort of try and fight back. So I guess my books are a bit my entries are a bit sort of Lovecraft meets Firefly.
I'm sold. I'm buying them now. I'm actually going on Amazon to look for them. That sounds right up my street.
It sounds.
I've just remembered the one-liner pitch. So I pitched The Undefeated. It was to Marco again, Marco Palmieri. We were bantering on Twitter, as I spend a lot of my time doing, and I said, "What I really want, Marco, is a feminist high plains drifter in space." And he said, "I'll commission that." And I said, "I'll write it." And that was it. It was a kind of like a 4-tweet exchange. So so you got Firefly meets Lovecraft in Weird Space, and then feminist high plains drifter in space. is The Undefeated.
I'm with you on that, Jono. Do not take the last copies.
It's that little gif of that guy from The Simpsons. Shut up and take my money.
Take my money.
So I'm going to say now, I've just gone on to Amazon UK. Don't forget, everybody out there, that there's also a book depository for those of us in the UK and Ireland. You can get books from there. But and
remember, if you want to support your independence, go to bookshop.org.uk is the other one as well.
That's the bookshop. Was it bookshop?
Yes, we're all Googling now, and we're all running through this.
What was it again? Bookshop?
Bookshop.org.uk. So I hope they ship to Ireland. Who knows what flipping Brexit's done to shipping rates now? But don't
get anymore.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
But certainly, if you're in the UK, it's supporting sort of independence. So
right. Well, use bookshop.org.uk and you guys to support if you're over in the UK. And we have some people watching from the United States as well. So guys, check your local stockists. But if you can get them shipped from bookshop.org.uk, please do. I'm just looking at Amazon.co.uk because I do know that ships to Ireland after the Brexit muck-up. And there are only 2 copies left on.
Move quickly!
I will wait.
One of them is in my basket.
Yeah, no, I will wait, and I will get it when I go to the UK for destination in November.
Are you coming for that?
And I suspect they're all Kindleable as well, so you should be able to get
you can. Yes, they're all available on Kindle. How does that work? I mean, do you still get your commission and stuff like that?
You
don't get a reduced
absolutely.
amount if it's bought from Kindle, no.
No, not at all. And in fact, if you get them through your library, there's this. I don't know if people know. There's a wonderful thing called the public lending right, which is a little pot of money that every year. Oh, well done, Alan. Just bought all 3. That's what we like.
Well, there
you go.
What a hero! Yeah, he's got the lots. The PLR is a little pot of money that it pays out to people based on books being borrowed from libraries. And the nice thing is that the pot of money is capped, so it doesn't all go to Stephen King. Yeah, so you kind of hit an upper level, and they don't pay anymore. And it's I do from my Star Trek and Doctor Who books. I get it's not a vast amount of money, but I get a nice little paycheck. And PLR is UK and Ireland. So if you borrow from libraries in Ireland as well, I get something like 0.2 of a penny or 0.2 of a whatever it's a cent.
Here in Ireland, here in Ireland, Carnegie was a chap named Carnegie was he did a lot of libraries all over
same here,
UK and Ireland. I've been to a few of his in Scotland. We have one here in my hometown of Malahide. It's a Carnegie library, and a lot of the older towns. There's one in Dunleary as well. So Carnegie was the Carnegie libraries are still exist here.
Still going.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many still exist here, to be honest. They've kind of all been culled. So there you are. Here we are on Austerity Plague Island.
Well, that's great to have your own series. I didn't see what the name of the third, the Baba Yaga and the Weird Space series. How many books was in that?
Oh, I think did Eric do 2? I think Eric did 2, and then I think I did 2. And they were going to extend it, and then they kind of read mine, and they went, "Well, you've just finished it off." And I went, "I'm really sorry." I think you could get another couple of stories out of it, but they kind of wound it up. But I quite like them. So they were good. They were good fun. It was an interesting thing to do. I think they're my first sort of non-TV tie-in. So it sort of gave me confidence to write it was a shared world, but it felt like I wasn't relying on something else. So
was the Baba Yaga, I'm presuming by the name, it was a Russian spacecraft, was it? Russian-based spacecraft?
Sort of. It's the kind of setup is a little bit more complicated. That you kind of gone past those nation states, but
right, okay.
There's a fair amount of there's that story is significant. And then Star of the Sea is quite it's quite Catholic, actually. It's probably my most Catholic book. So there's a whiskey priest in it. I've always wanted to write a whiskey priest, but she's a lady priest. So
version of Father Jack.
Yeah. I've never seen a woman whiskey priest before, so I thought eat your heart out, Graham Greene. So
and how big are those books? What's
they're probably slightly short. I think they were a bit shorter. I think they were about 65 to 70,000. So they're a good fast read. Yeah, they're sort of
cool,
fun adventure, wisecracks, weapons firing. It's all good, clean fun.
I think there's a bit of a book club just started.
I should definitely tell you about I've got a Firefly novel coming out as well. Keep an eye out for that. So very excited about that. Yeah, I love Fireflies. Real checklist tick thing for me. So that's called Carnival, and that'll be out at the end of the year. So keep an eye out for that.
And that's definitely the end of the year. So that's Christmas presents all around.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm sorted. I'm good.
So Una, is there any other? How many? We didn't get to chat about all of your books. Obviously, there's another set. Myself and Anne were discussing before you came online, which is of course is interesting as well from female authors' point of view, being able to write for Doctor Who. Because you've got Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor, and you've written three tie-in books for that.
Oh, I think it's up to 4 or 5 now. So it's let's see, King's Dragon, Way Through the Woods, Royal Blood, Molten Heart, and then I did there's this big Time Lord Victorious event that happened last year, and I did a sort of short novel for them, which is called All Flesh is Grass, as I say, because I'm from the north of England. All flesh is grass, as they might say. All flesh is grass. So I did a short novel. So it's 4 novels and a sort of little novella. So
you can see Una's book there in the middle, The Molten Heart.
Yeah, they're beautiful covers, aren't they? Really, really stunning. Well, they're really nice job with them.
They're very eye-catching. They're very Doctor Who. That's the great thing about Doctor Who is the color scheme. Unfortunately, I think what myself and Anne were discussing really about Doctor Who, the modern Doctor Who. Over the moon that Jodie Whittaker got it. I think she's fantastic. But a lot of the Doctor's success is to do with just as much with the showrunner as well as the cast and the actors. So I've only seen the first season outing with Jodie, because I don't watch TV anymore, as in broadcast TV. I watch Netflix, and if it's not Netflix just dropped Doctor Who at Christmas, so it's no longer there. So there's no way.
It's all on. It's gone on. I don't know about the new stuff, but the old stuff is all on BritBox, isn't it? So I don't know whether you can access BritBox. Can you get iPlayer over where you are?
No. So iPlayer, BBC iPlayer is geolocked.
It is.
And just like RTE player is geolocked, which I think is a bit silly, because why geolock RTE player? I mean, you'd be better off getting the revenue from the rest of the world with RTE.
I mean, anyway, you can pretty much watch BBC One in Dublin, can't you? You can.
Oh, we can watch it if you have it.
If you have an aerial, or if you have
the things plugged in, but I don't. I just have the TV for streaming. That's all. I gave up on television a long time ago. I used to work as a VT operator, and my job for 10 hours a day was to quality control commercials. Ads.
Commercials.
So I can't watch broadcast like channels anymore.
That would turn a man to radio, wouldn't it?
My day was an 8 to 10 hour commercial break, and like every time you see one ad, there was 25 versions.
Oh,
the English, the Irish, the Scottish, the Welsh, and the Northern Irish versions, and then they all had like the 15-second, the 20-second, 25, the 60, and the director's cut. So there's 25 versions of every ad. It was very
oh god,
that would put me off live TV. Not RTE. In fairness, now. Subscribe.
Before we, what is there anything that really grabs you about saying that in Baba Yaga and in the Weird Space series, you got to write some feminist characters, a female whiskey priest, and advance the. I'm guessing she was a Catholic female priest.
She is a Catholic. She is a Catholic. Yeah, it's there's quite a lot of
religion
Catholic
in there too. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I'm not sure how devout she is, but she believes.
She's not Irish by any chance, is she? Because
she's not. I don't think. No. I think she's like I said, it's not really nation states, but she's not really Irish. I have a feeling she may have been chucked out, but I can't. But she. It's more that the church has left her than she's left the church. I think it's her kind of feeling. So,
how do you feel when you write? Do you think you can get into? So, if your brain listens to conversations, say when you're writing for Jodie, would you hear Jodie's voice, or would you try and get into the mind of the 2,000-year-old doctor who now has the voice of Jodie, or how do you come to the Doctor and the stories in that regard?
So I know that I'm not the same as other Doctor Who writers, but I never write from the Doctor's perspective because I think it leaches some of the magic from it. I think that your viewpoint character, or the character that what you would call the focalizer, the lens through which you're always being asked to watch or experience Doctor Who, is through the companion. So you're always experiencing the companion's there to be asking, to be astonished, amazed, terrified. What's the Doctor up to? To be enjoying being in the Doctor's company. So I always stick in the mind of one of the companions, or two in the case of the most recent bunch, and usually I go into the point of view of a character who's on the spot. So the kind of the companion of the week from the planet that they're on, or if it's on Earth, the policeman investigating the disappearance of the woodland, people wandering through this wood. So I always stay out of the Doctor's point of view, because I think it demystifies the Doctor, and part of that is demystifying Doctor Who. I know that other people write the Doctor's point of view, and they clearly enjoy it. But then when you're writing the dialogue, yes, you're hearing the voice, but at the same time, I think you're trying to tap into something that transcends each individual incarnation of the Doctor. You're trying to make it not just the 13th Doctor, but the 13th Doctor. Yeah, okay. So there's got to be something that is the Doctor all the way through.
Ask that question.
That never cowardly, never cruel. You know, that I think it's Terence Dick's quote. You've always got to have that in the back of your mind. And ideally, you could get, and you can see footage of this. You can see Sylvester McCoy delivering some of David Tennant's speeches. Ideally, you should be able to take the Doctor's lines and imagine them in any of their voices. I think, even though they're very different, and you know they might have different intonation. I think the Doctor's lines, the Doctor should be able to say, regardless.
That's
of who
interesting.
that is.
When Matt Smith first took over in his first season, I could easily tell that the scripts had been written for Tennant. But obviously,
right, okay.
I felt that the scripts had been written for Tennant, but Matt was playing them, which I thought was intentionally or not. It was a nice flow from, well, here's the writing style that we've created for Tennant, but we now have a new actor who's playing it. So Matt Smith had to take stuff written for Tennant and turn it into his own, and then eventually they went, oh, this is how Matt talks, and this is Matt's energy, and we'll write for Matt. And of course, Jodie was coming from Peter Capaldi, which was a very, very different. I really enjoyed Capaldi.
I love Capaldi.
A lot of people didn't like him, but I liked him.
I loved him. I thought it was very, very deep.
So
very
would you hear like Capaldi or Smith or Tennant or Hartnell whenever you're writing your Doctor?
Yeah, definitely. I've done some Big Finish stuff as well. So obviously Hartnell isn't there to perform, but the way they do it, you sort of you write these scripts where the Doctor has lines, and it was actually Peter Purves doing it, and he does a great Hartnell impersonation. So you got to get those lines right. But a lot of that is sort of, you know, all the hmms and things were probably not scripted. I mean, a lot of what Hartnell was saying was not scripted because he couldn't remember the lines most of the time. So it's kind of Pertwee was notorious for just making it up. You know, and barely ever hitting his cue. I'm surprised that I would have thought that the Matt Smith scripts were more distinctive because, of course, you get the change of showrunner there, don't you? So, but I remember Simon Guerrier, there's a brilliant Doctor Who writer, saying to me once that what he really loved about Matt Smith's performance was that he's performing. He's in widescreen, but he's performing it as if he's in 4:3. So he's constantly sort of falling over his own limbs. I think that's an absolutely brilliant insight about it's like a sort of, you know, giraffe falling over its own legs. I thought Matt Smith was knockout. I know Moffat wanted Capaldi. I'd always wanted to cast Capaldi when he arrived on the show.
Himself,
and then Matt Smith walked into the room and they went, "We've got to make this guy the Doctor. This is," and they were completely right. He was phenomenal. Capaldi, I loved too. I found, and this is partly because I had a new baby at the time, so I was quite tired. I found the scripts sometimes quite difficult to follow because the storylines got more complex, and I was a bit sort of I haven't slept for 4 days. What is happening to me? So
I think Capaldi though, again, you know, it's the actor could be great, but if they don't have a great script, it's tough for them. But I did think that Capaldi's Doctor had the best version of the Master in Missy, with Michelle Gomez playing an absolute blank. I think she was just wonderful. You know, antithesis, you know, kind of like, and it was a great mask as well, because it was like, is this the Master? Who's this new character? And it was a great forerunner.
Little shout out for Jacoby, I think.
Yes, Derek Jacoby. Yeah, what an interesting way to play that. Yeah,
I have at that moment when he switches. Oh my God, it's absolutely terrifying because I think I don't know. Other people were probably already on it, but it really caught me on the hop, and I was, oh my God, how have I missed this? Oh no, this is all awful.
I think his look kind of gave it away a little bit.
Yeah,
but it wasn't until they opened the watch, and it just
that turn is and then of course what must be more fun for an actor than to get to play the master, which is basically playing a panto villain, isn't it? So it's just absolutely great. I really like Sacha Derwin. I think it's it's got the kind of cackling glee. The master's not a difficult part. I think you're only ever winning.
Everyone loves to play the villain. It's easier to play the villain because you can just caricature it and you can just play it up. Yeah. And that's exactly what Michelle Gomez did a wonderful job of. She was able to just it's doing pantomime on TV, which if you do pantomime on TV, doesn't work unless you're that character.
Exactly that. So yeah, she's pretty special, and they had a great chemistry as well, I think. And the full Scottish royal flush. Doctor and Master. So well done, Stephen Moffat.
Before we let you go, back to your daughter, who's I'm sure she's going to be screaming for mom soon. Relieve your husband from the mindings. Anne, is there anything else you want to ask? I just have a couple more. There's a couple more notes here I have from Alan. If there's anything that's outstanding you wish to ask.
Just you've written so extensively for different franchises. Is there any franchise you haven't written for to date that you would love to write for in the science fiction universe or multiverses?
Well, my answer up until now was always Firefly, but I've literally just ticked that one off. So I'm not sure I have an answer to this at the moment. There was I would if they'd ever done TV tie-in books, there was a TV show called Rome, which was you remember Rome? It was absolutely stunning. I would have loved
from the BBC.
Yeah, I would have loved to have done something set there. I would love to have done a novel. I guess we've got Suetonius and Julius Caesar books, but that's not the same, is it? That's not but I loved Titus Pullo and Lucius Vorenus. I would have loved to have written a book about them because the language again was so playful. The dialogue was so good. But Firefly really was the and then the only other one, and this is really obscure, people won't remember this. There was a very short-lived show called Jericho, which was a kind of post-apocalypse.
Yes. A Canadian show. Yeah.
It had about a season and 6 episodes, and I think it's one of the most interesting shows I've ever seen. And I would have loved to have done I can't remember now. I'd love to see it again. I would have loved to have done the kind of wrap-up novel of that. So those are I'm among friends here. If you remember Jericho, blimey, yeah.
Oh yeah, all those shows in the 90s. Oh yeah, I was. I mean,
post 90210.
Yeah. So those are the two, but Firefly really was the big one.
I'm really excited for Firefly, that novel now. I really am.
And of course, I've never got to do a Blake Seven novel. I've done Blake Seven scripts.
You just made it those days.
I've never done a Blake Seven novel, so I'm very proud to be I was the second woman to get a writer credit on Blake Seven. Tanith Lee obviously wrote 2 episodes, but then my Big Finish credits were the next woman. So that was I was really proud of that because that was my favorite show as a kid. Well, so I'd like to have done a Blake Seven novel, which I've never done, but I've done short stories and audio and stuff. So it doesn't feel like a gap. Yeah.
So
it's a strange one. I think Blake Seven's something you really had to grow up with. I have had the DVDs borrowed from a friend of mine. They're sitting. I'm looking at them. They're right under the TV, and I've watched season 1, and I'm struggling through season 2. And everyone's going, it's an amazing storyline, and it's unfortunately for me because I'm just that little bit too young for it. It's not grabbing me to put the next one in. So I haven't actually watched it through. And I'm sure my mate's kind of going, John, can I have my discs back, please?
Season one's a bit of a slog, to be honest. It's season the thing about Blake Seven, I think, partly you had to be there. Yeah. season two has some crackers in it, and I think you either get into the groove of the characters and start enjoying the dialogue, the kind of sparks between them. If you always you lost me for a second. If you enjoy that, then there's always something. There'll always be a line or something, and then some episodes really are just quite good. But it is a bit of a a press on, see where you go, because you can enjoy just spotting bits of used Doctor Who props, if anything else.
there was a season 1 episode, because I know the thing about Blake Seven was it had no money whatsoever.
No,
absolutely not. No.
Because I remember, and this is just because I was a visual checker and I had to QC stuff in the past, and I work in TV. There was an episode where they went to the same, industrial complex or factory or whatever that they usually went to for the the space station or whatever, the grounded space station or whatever they had, and they got up to a security gate, a chain link fence, and Blake goes up to the post and he starts punching in numbers trying to figure out the code for the gate. And as I looked closely on my big screen TV, which you didn't have back then, and I noticed that this grid of numbers was duct tape. They'd literally just gone and made a duct tape grid for the punch code.
Yeah.
And I was like,
One of the other joys of a show like Blake's, and that episode I can tell you is Seek, Locate, Destroy. So you know which episode that is. And then you get the security robot. One of the other joys of a show like Blake Seven is, of course, it wasn't made, as you're just saying, it wasn't made for HD or for widescreen or anything. So the other thing, if you look very closely, you can see all of their makeup and the lines where the makeup ends. So you can see all of their slap. It's absolutely great. And I've now, in my head, it's because they're all spending so much time in space that they're not getting enough sunlight. So they're all putting makeup on at the time. But just watch a few more episodes and you really get to see people's foundation lines. It just brings another level of joy.
The story point for you. This is part of the routine on the Liberator. Is I have to get up in the morning.
Oh God, I know. I'm looking a bit pasty. Yeah, everyone in the Federation is kind of slapping it on as well. So it's war paint. So I love Blake Seven. My daft old show. I absolutely adore it. So
we all have daft old shows. I can talk about random shows that from the 90s that I remember. Like there's one show that very few have seen that I loved and had very sketchy, but it always sticks in my mind. There was two shows. There was Brimstone. Don't know if you remember that one.
I don't.
Vaguely rings a bell. Yeah.
John Glover as playing the devil. That was a fun concept. 13 episodes. But it suffered greatly from a lot of the shows in the 90s were used to, in the pilot, say so many things have escaped and this is how many things you have to find, and they try and give themselves like you have 120 episodes to go, and they'd get 13. That was give yourself a number because it's going to be the death nail in your coffin. And then the other one that I thought was amazing was a fugitive, kind of similar to The Fugitive, was Nowhere Man with Bruce Greenwood.
Yes.
I love that. Was another random.
Oh yes, I remember that.
Yeah. I have that on I downloaded that somewhere because it never came out on DVD. So Brimstone, 13 episodes, and Nowhere Man. Akin to Jericho and a lot of the other shows that came off. Files and the success of that stuff. But Una, look, we won't keep you too much longer. There's I got a message here while we've been talking from Alan O'Shea, and Alan says he said, oh, where's he gone? I'll get the message up now, and I'm gonna have to read it out properly. So Una and Verity, you are hereby duly assigned to the science department of the U.S. Under the leadership of Chief Science Officer Lieutenant Commander Tracy McConnell. So congratulations on your assignment to our overcrowded ship. With our
Beta shift.
Oh, there you go. Beta shift.
I've got it as well.
There you go. Congratulations, Beta Shift. You now have another honorary member. So Una's part of Beta Shift now.
Beta Shift
so Alan is very pleased to be able to give you that commission. Cadet Verity and yourself, Una, you're assigned to the science department. So you'll be going around wearing blue on board.
Yes.
I believe that Verity is going to be a maths specialist, so she'd be calculating all our black holes and wormholes and all that, spatial trajectories. And you are assigned to the xenosociology department.
Thank you very much.
So
Fantastic.
With a minor in space psychology. So well done.
Indeed.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much, guys. Verity will be stoked. She fell in love with Jadzia Dax and loves the blue uniform. And I don't know if you know, but Alexander Siddig was doing a social club online.
That's right. I saw that.
Yeah. And she got to chat to Terry Farrell. So absolutely made her lockdown. It's lovely. I've got a little video of them talking to each other. So she's a big fan of Jadzia. Yeah. So she'll be very pleased with the blue. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Jadzia too.
Yeah. Who isn't?
Well, I mean, when I it's amazing. Like I've been watching the show for so long. When DS9 first came out, I was 13. And she has the line in the pilot, and because she's looking at Dr. Bashir and she goes, well, he's 27, I'm 28, and then I got to 28, was still watching it, and now it's weird because I still watch old episodes, and she's between 28 and 35. And now I'm watching it going, oh my God, I'm older than those characters are in the show. And it's weird. I don't know how to feel about that,
Yeah. Oh, don't think about that. Don't go there. It only gets worse, I promise you.
So there's also a message here from the captain, and he says, "Come to Ireland for research, of course, to study the legend of our ship, the name right of our ship, Cuchulainn, and write about other Irish folklore, myths, and legends."
As soon as I can. Yeah, very much so. I'd love to do that. Yeah.
So Una, look, thank you so much for agreeing to do this live interview with us. This is
my pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
Fantastic. Hopefully we'll get a few more views out there on the YouTubes. This will be constant. This will be up on YouTube. So hello to everybody who's watched after the fact. If you didn't get to see us live, thank you for joining us and watching along. And join us for all the other things. Keep on top of things, and please go to bookshop.org.uk and buy all of Una's books, including the Weird Space books and her new books. So you've got a Firefly coming up at the end of this year. Will that be printed by Destination? Are you going to or will you be signing?
I'm hoping to get to Destination, but I'm not sure yet. I'm watching the Delta variant to see what happens, because obviously hotels just aren't it. So we'll see what happens. But I'd love to, because we were meant to be launching the Janeway book at the last one. My autobiography of Spock will be out by then, so that's coming out really quite soon, actually. And then Firefly, I think it's November. I'd have to go and check, because COVID's been playing havoc with publication schedule, just printing and distribution. But hopefully there should be 2 new books before the end of the year. Definitely one by Destination. Fingers crossed, I can get there. And then hopefully, Firefly will be there as well. So,
for the very same reasons as yourself, I'm filming for Netflix, so I'm most likely won't make it to Destination at the end of this year, simply because we work with the actors, and if one of our team, when the stunt team goes down, the whole production shuts down, because we work with the actors and stuff. So I doubt I'll make it this year myself, but if I know that half of the regular Cuchulainn crew are booked and have hotels and flights and everything are all ready to.
Wow, guys, that's amazing!
Waiting to go. So when you're there, please,
we'll meet you at the bar.
Yeah, you'll have an open invite to join the whole crew at the bar. They'd be delighted to help for you to hang out. Nar all round. So please, and of course to the crew, if you're going over to when you do buy your books from bookshop.org.uk that written by Una, please bring them to Una. She more than likely will be signing at destination. And please go along, say hello, and reminder of certain other things like alpha shift and beta shift, so they can be in.
Beta shift. He's the only one that has wheels on his chair that he can do this.
Alpha shift are so. There's Antoinette. Alpha shift are so jealous. So
she's just a turncoat. She's halfway in the door, beta shift.
She'll be come and join us.
Yeah, well, Antoinette joins both shifts. She's on the planet, but she's also on the ship at the same time. So, but look, Una, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, guys.
Absolute pleasure. It's a great laugh today as well. So we wish you all the best, and hopefully we'll meet you again in the future.
See you in destination, I hope.
Indeed.
I have to do the double click on the broadcast.
Cardassia forever.
Cardassia forever. Oh, more Garak, please. I'd love Andy Robinson to actually voice the book he wrote as well. That'd be a thing.
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
Right. I'm gonna hit the end broadcast button. I have to hit it twice. So live long and prosper, everybody. Take care. We'll see you again.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
It's rolling. It's ending. I don't know whether it's stopped or not. It's still.